So welcome again, everybody. We're very happy to have you here with us for our second webinar in the SONNET Project's Webinar Series, Explored Social Innovation in Energy Transitions. My name is Niklas Mischkowski. I'm working for ICLA Europe, and my colleague Olga Krajewska is also with us today. She will take your questions during the presentations and during the discussion sections we have. So feel free. And yeah, bye Olga, we'll see you later again. And yeah, so what's ahead today? I'll just briefly have a few words on the project, and then we'll have 3 impulses from our speakers, which are Carsten Rothballer from ICLA Europe, Agnes Schönfelder from the city of Mannheim, and Ursula Papacek from Neuland 21. And after each presentation, we'll have a short follow-up discussion to tie in the presentation we heard into the overall topic. And at the very end, we'll have all 3 speakers with us, and then have a discussion with all of them. And you, as an attendee, also have the opportunity to pose questions, especially at the end, but also throughout the whole webinar. And we'll try to take those into the discussion as much as we can. So this is the mentioned control pane you should have somewhere on your screen, and you probably only have the questions section. You might have also a chat section, so whenever you have questions, please just put them into this questions section. All right, so what is the SONNET project? SONNET is about social innovation in energy transitions. And at the core of the SONNET project, we have city labs in 6 cities across Europe. These cities are Bristol in the UK, Mannheim in Germany, which we're going to hear about today, then Antwerp in Belgium, which we heard about in our first webinar actually, and Grenoble in France, Warsaw in Poland, and Basel in Switzerland. And each of these cities is putting into practice a city lab, experimenting with social innovation in order to advance the energy transition in their cities. And one of the main tasks we have done so far in the project was a mapping and typology building, which we also presented in our first webinar, gathering over 500 examples of social innovation all over Europe. And then furthermore, we want to identify and analyze the enabling and impeding conditions on the political level, on a social, cultural level, that determine how well these social innovations can actually be implemented, and how to actually support them. And finally, we want to assess the potential they have for energy transitions in the respective countries where we have our partnering cities. And at the very end, we hope to see some business model development and also to identify market opportunities for these innovative models in the energy sector. If you want to check out the typology, for example, you can go to our website, sonnet-energy.eu, and there you'll find under the resource section also the typology we have developed, and I recommend it as a good read. And yeah, before we start with the first speaker, we want to briefly see who's with us today. Those of you who have participated in our webinars know this little exercise already. Olga will activate a small poll now, and just click the box where you feel you belong. Be it a municipality, research, private businesses, NGO, or EU institutions, just so we, but also especially our speakers, know whom they're talking to today. And we'll just wait a few seconds for you to fill it out. And Olga, whenever you think we're ready to go, please show us the results. There we go. Okay, so we have municipality, actually a good portion, to almost equal amounts. We have researches, also some, almost 20%, if I could read that correctly, private companies, and then quite a few also from the NGOs, but none from EU institutions, which is fine. That happens. Okay, so we have a good mix. I guess don't have to pay special attention to any group here, but later on when you pose questions, actually you might want to just say kind of which organization or just also which sector you're coming from, so then we can kind of contextualize your question maybe a bit better. Or you might also want to address specific speakers. All right, then let's close the poll again and continue. There we are. Okay, great. So our first speaker is Carsten Rothballer. Carsten, yeah, say hi, everybody. Okay. So Carsten works, as I said, for ICLE Europe as well. He's a coordinator for sustainable resources, climate and resilience at ICLE Europe. And he works with local governments throughout Europe in the development, improvement, and also in the financing of sustainable energy climate action plans, especially, but also a lot on smart city approaches. And he will talk today about the German energy transition, asking, is it a dialogue between national and local level policies, and kind of introducing us into the overall topic and into the current status. I'm gonna try to give Carsten the control over the presentation. We hope this works. That's always an exciting moment. And yeah, maybe just try. I'm trying, okay. It seems not to work. Okay, then I'm just gonna go through for you and you just let me know when to switch the slides. There we are.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicholas. So I try within 10 minutes, and let me set my own timer here. See if I behave well to fit to this 10-minute introduction of the German energy transition. Very shortly, as an introduction, also from maybe the outside point of view, from the point of view of looking at Germany, what does the energy transition stand for? We have almost half of the renewable energy capacity in Germany owned by citizens. We have more than 1.4 million installations benefiting from the feed-in tariff in Germany. There are a lot of cooperatives established in this field, working on electricity, thermal, and increasingly also on more sector coupling issues. We have 380,000 jobs in the renewable energy sector in Germany. There is a lot of regional added value that is driving political decision making from municipalities, but also regions in Germany. We are, of course, also looking at the export potential of our technologies as the German government from their perspective, for instance. And I guess many sites within Germany have proven also on a local level, on a micro level, that the renewable energy in all its facets are economically feasible, viable, and profitable at very different conditions. And this led to the fact that also already a long time ago, we set the goal of phasing out nuclear energy by 2022. And we have recently agreed to phase out coal energy by 2038 or earlier. And electricity prices for the industrial sector have decreased dramatically at the stock exchange. One can see that, and this is sort of the benefit of the energy transition, and also is vastly supported. Next slide, please, by the German population. If you look at the opinion polls, we can see that 95% of the German population favor or are supportive to renewable energy. we can also take a look on the right-hand side and see distinguishing between different types of renewable energy, that there is a support more for solar, for instance, by 66% in general, but also distinguishing between the opinions from people that have actually in the neighborhood of these sites, then the support is actually even higher. So here in the solar sector, by 78% support of this technology. Wind turbines also, even by experience, wind turbines nearby, 63% support, and very differently than in comparison to gas, coal or nuclear energy. Next slide. So the German energy transition is driven by considerations of the dependencies on the imported energy to some extent. You can see that on the left-hand side with the fossil dependency of Germany by 70% of it, and you can see that actually the renewable energies in that context have been quite supportive also from that sense that there was a lot of dynamic in this field of installing renewable energy, and the predictions were usually more conservative than the reality. Today's reality, next slide, is, however, that we have had a boom, I would say, from solar. You can see here the investment, and these two slides pictures are in German, so let's quickly translate them. The yellow is the solar energy, and you can see that there was a boom of investment in that type of renewable energy in 2009, 10, and 11, and then the feed-in tariff changed, and due to that fact, capacity and investments were reduced. But at the same time, wind turbines, which is the yellow, which is the blue, have been installed. Wind capacity onshore have been installed quite quickly. This is what the left-hand side graph shows. In the right-hand side, you can see, however, now the capacity installed in wind turbines, and you can also see, similarly to the solar power, here also a drop of investments, and the 2019 was the year with the lowest capacity installed in comparison to the establishment of the feed-in tariff for wind power. So what does it tell us? Next slide, please. We have a lot of challenges, of course, in facing. Energy prices are rising. However, the reasons for it, it's not so much communicated. We have the biggest energy consumers with the reason or with the argumentation that they are in competition with other countries. They are left out of the regulation to pay the feed-in tariff, so they can consume cheaper energy to be competitive. That is the argumentation. So not all pay the feed-in tariffs. Usually it's the citizens or the smaller companies that need to pay. We have the four biggest German energy companies. Their business model is clearly threatened, and they are currently undergoing a restructuring process. Until recently, we had more coal more coal than gas. Gas as less emitting CO2 in the system. And we have the challenge that the energy transition is very focused on electricity so far, and not so much on heating and cooling or mobility. Energy efficiency is also not a big priority, at least not all in all sectors, and often the gray emissions or the gray embedded energy is also not considered within our calculations. The extension of the distribution network is still a challenge, as well as storage. There are rebound effects, pre-bound effects, and behavior change is missing. So what are the good news then on the other side? Next slide. I think we can clearly see here also the framework conditions now being again challenged by a lot of citizens, by a lot of stakeholders like municipalities, like regions, like research and companies that are looking into this and wanting the change, seeing the opportunity, and wanting to have more renewable energy in the entire energy mix. There is increasingly also opportunities looking beyond political boundaries. That's what I meant here by vertical integration of different decision-making processes. So going from a city level to a regional level, going to a national level. Here there are lots of new allies also created, supported also internationally. I think it's important to say that we can sustain the bottom-up energy transition by going for ambitious targets, by striving for 100% renewable energy. This is possible and needed. And I can say that the decentralized sustainable energy is profitable. We can see that, and we will hear more about it from the cities to speak that this is indeed the case. We have a lot of municipal concepts looking into the future, and maybe here more innovation, social innovation is particularly targeting at aspects of circularity and integrated concept sector coupling and so on, due to the fact that energy is a cross-cutting issue and we are penetrating very different elements. Here also the knowledge transfer is quite innovative in the sense that people that talk now to each other on energy, which have never talked about energy or anything before. So sectors are meeting and new business models are established. The socially just transition, I would also say here is an important aspect that we can observe in the German energy transition as being community-led. That was also one of my first messages to you with the statistics. I believe that the success of the climate concept depends very much on the stakeholder involvement and engagement of different groups. Here again, the possibility of different stakeholders to talk to each other on energy is and profit and benefit within various aspects from this joint undertaking, for instance, public, private and people partnership, that is to be seen. And we can say that social innovation lies very much also or relates very much also to the professionalization of cities, of regions advocating for the energy transition in Germany, and this needs to be supported. It is supported increasingly also by public budgets targeting this particularly. And with that, I'm closing, and thank you very much for your attention so far.
Thank you very much, Carsten. That was a good run through, and you made it in 10 minutes. Very professional on your side. So yeah, thank you again. Now, yeah, to tie this a little bit in, I mean, everybody's right now, I think, talking about COVID a lot. So I have already some questions on this dialogue between local and national level, as your title also was about, but maybe we'll have that later on. So let's put in one question on the COVID situation right now, because people are, or the media are saying that, okay, due to the pandemic now, emissions have dropped, and this is kind of a window of opportunity that Germany could actually meet its climate goals. On the other hand, we also see in the last days, especially the news about the new coal power plant Datteln 4, which has been criticized a lot. And well, how does it fit together? How would you see the German Energiewende at the moment being on a good way or rather on a nebulous way?
Yeah, as I said, currently my perception is looking at statistics that the dynamic which we had created, which the government had created through its feed-in tariff, is somehow lost in the solar and now also in the wind. sector, in biomass even before. So, and I hope that now with also the recovery plans that we have now the opportunity also to put this into focus again, put into focus energy efficiency, but also renewable energy. And my answer, or I would advocate actually for the fact that the energy efficiency and locally harvested renewable energy is actually a wonderful garant for economic recovery, and because it creates local jobs and sustains them locally. And so in that sense, I'm advocating for a decentralized energy transition at this very moment, and particularly if the goal is also to build added value and maintain added value locally. And I would also say there is another opportunity. We have been observing the IPCC reports and so on, the science with the eye of acknowledging it, but maybe not within the entire political field and not throughout society as we have done now for COVID-19. I'm not sure how was your feeling, for instance, but me myself, I was looking for more scientific information how to cope with COVID-19, and I think it is exactly what we should do. Also looking at climate change and the dramatic changes that we're experiencing, we can observe also very slowly, looking at studies and using the arguments which we have in the political debate. And again, I'm saying that the decentralized energy revolution, in that sense, here is a wonderful opportunity also within this pandemic and this economic crisis.
Okay, thank you. Then maybe quickly to Olga, do we have any questions from the attendees right now? We could take in one at this moment.
Yes, we have one question from Karishma Asarpota, and the question is, can you say something about how the ambitions of the bottom-up energy transitions respond to NDCs, so nationally determined contributions?
Yeah, this is what we as ICLEI actually are striving for, to connect the local level, even the citizen level in that sense, with the city level, and then regional and higher calculations also of emission inventories and contributions. I believe there is so much potential on the local level for the national level to use deliberately the ambitions that cities have of declaring climate emergency, of wanting more renewable energy and energy efficiency, but are not able to invest sufficiently in this sector. And I think here the local level have a very important role to play in terms of advocating for. We want more ambitious targets. We have more ambitious targets at the local level. We want more ambitious targets at the national level, and we need to work together. And in that sense, there is not a clear line of relation between the national level of ambition and the local level of ambition. I would say by tendency, at least for those cities ICLEI is working with, the local level is much more ambitious than the national level, and is in many cases proving that this is possible. But by scale, we can do much more on a local level if the national level sets the supportive framework conditions.
All right, thank you for this very comprehensive answer, and thanks for the answer at first. With this, Carsten, we take you out for a moment, and we'll see you in the final discussion again. Thank you again. All right, so then our next presentation actually goes to the very local level. We will hear now from Ursula Papajak from Neuland 21, a relatively young organization, I believe. She is program director for energy at Neuland, and she researches and applies different social innovation and digital tools, especially to support the sustainable development of the energy transition in Europe. And she's a firm believer in local government's vast energy and innovation potential. And we have a perspective not at the city level so much, but more in the rural areas, which also is quite interesting, I believe. And very much looking forward to your presentation now, and then also to the following discussion. And yeah, you just let me know when you want to switch the slides, and the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I got disconnected.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Your picture is frozen, but I can hear you.
Okay, then let's try without the camera. Shall I start the presentation now?
Yes, please go.
Okay, I think you can also see me now. Is that true?
I can't.
Okay, let's start the presentation then. So next slide. Thank you so much for the invitation, first of all. I'll focus my short presentation on what we believe is an untapped energy innovation potential in rural areas. I'll first look into the role local actors played during the first phase of the Energiewende. I'll then move on to having a look at the current situation and the main challenges associated with the second phase of the transition. I'll finally conclude by presenting my approach to the challenges identified during the presentation. And next slide. During the first phase of the energy transition, when the focus was on renewable energy generation, many actors in rural areas took the lead. The local energy projects, today considered Energiewende role models, were initiated in rural areas. I'm sure everyone on this webinar knows lots and lots of examples. Here are just a few. Dadesheim has pioneered the use of renewable energy sources in Germany since one of the first wind turbines was erected in '93 already. This wind park expanded in '94 following an agreement with a wind turbine company. Today, the local hill is covered with 32 wind turbines with a total wind capacity that is equivalent to about 40 times the total annual electricity consumption of the village. I think it's amazing. By 2017, 7 additional wind turbines and a battery storage have been added to the system. Besides wind power, 9 solar panels plants also produce 1/3 of the village electricity demand since 2005. In addition, household solar collectors on roof provide warm water, and there are several biomass-based heating systems in town. In 2005, 2 local car companies started to offer the exchange of diesel fuel-driven engines with diesel engines. And if that's not enough, near the town hall, a plug-in station for electric cars was constructed. I find this example really, really interesting for a lot of reasons, but also because the success of the town is often attributed to the transparency accompanying the overall process. Oberhof, in 2006, a few villagers decided to use local wood chips to deliver heat to heat network. They set up an energy community. And their work contributed to climate protection, to reducing energy dependency, keeping the money locally, and reducing long-term costs. Later, they also invested in solar photovoltaic installations, by the way. Well, this village has more than 500 inhabitants living in around 120 households, of which the majority, 107, is connected to the cooperatively owned, operated local heating systems. In 2010, its inhabitants declared its independence in terms of energy provision and created their own community heating network. Rhein-Sieg, since August 2015, the Citizens Initiative has been supplying energy generated on the basis of solar, wind, and water power. The cooperative in itself is responsible for funding, constructing, and operating the power plants. So there's a lot of reasons why clean generation boomed in rural areas. When I visited Wallen for the first time, one of the initiators of the cooperative answered that why countryside, not the cities question, with a simple, because happily we are not the thinking big types here. The lack of that mindset might have made all these generation projects possible and could also be instrumental to the rural areas' future acceleration of the energy innovation within the new decentralized digital and smart energy systems. The next slide. What is the current situation though? After the first phase of the energy transition, which focused on expanding renewable energies and establishing them as a technologically and economically viable option, now a second phase of the energy transition has begun. Here, the focus is shifting towards integrating high penetration of renewables through the design of smart, flexible systems, which incorporates heat and transport decarbonization, something that Carson already referred to. And so far, unfortunately, there seems to be far less evidence of rural actors taking an active role, with an integrated approach often lacking. Next slide. So there are many factors that contribute to that slowdown. I myself focus on one of them, which is supporting rural areas in developing digital solutions that move a sustainable energy transition in their regions forward. So just a little bit of a background, many digital solutions necessary for successful integration of the energy transitions are being developed in urban bubbles. A lot of startups and digital talents have no connection and knowledge of the reality on the ground. So simply said, while urban entrepreneurs keep developing new answers, it's the rural actors that hold the right questions. The problem is apparent. So a survey conducted by the Kompetenzzentrum Öffentliche IT am Fraunhofer Fokus was carried out in mid-2019, deliberately looked beyond the press effective project inauguration of the digital solutions developed in rural areas and checked on ongoing and completed projects in order to examine their success and experiences. And this is really interesting because so almost a third of the projects surveyed stated that they had received positive feedback on their digital solutions, and almost a quarter decided that high numbers of participants were involved with the projects and overall success of the project. However, if one looks at the development of the societal changes addressed by the project surveyed paint a sobering picture, unfortunately. In over half of the cases, the challenges have remained unchanged, and in almost every fifth case, they have even worsened since the beginning of the project. So in the same study, the projects were asked about the success factors for digital projects in rural areas and human factors, which are good management of stakeholders, groups involvement, the formation of the powerful project consortium, and a committed project team. Those were the answers that were appearing most often. And so, just to sum up this quick run, in my opinion, new models are needed where technological solutions are being designed. And I think a lot of research currently shows that that technological solutions on local levels need to be designed together with local actors. So what am I trying to do? So first of all, I'm trying to define the right questions, and here we look to the social innovation tools, and then explore the appropriate solutions where we turn to digitalization. And just a quick question, whether I still have 2 minutes to give an example?
Sure, go for it. And if you want, you can also try if your camera works again, because the connection seems to be stable. Yeah, perfect, wonderful. And you have 2 minutes.
Okay, then just sort of as an example for what I mean is we are currently interested in sort of looking into platforms that manage data around energy efficiency in rural areas. And there's a lot of solutions that are really interesting technologically, but what we're finding out is a lot of them are not appropriate for the needs of the local actors. So we try to follow this idea to sort of first approach the local actors and try to find out what the right questions are, and only then look into the digital solutions. I hope everything is working. My computer is showing me an error message, but I hope you could hear me. And thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you a lot, Ursula. I could still hear you and also see you. Yeah, thanks for staying with us there. And yeah, if you have any questions, here you have Ursula's contact, and also check out their website. I think it's an interesting organization. So as a follow-up question, I think it was very interesting what you said, that in the rural areas you don't have so much this thinking big mindset, which might be more something of a dynamic urban lifestyle or style of people. And you also said that the solutions developed in these new startups and working on digital solutions mostly are developed in urban areas, and they don't really fit so much the problems in or the needs in rural areas. Can you maybe just briefly repeat or explain it a little bit more, like in what sense is a mismatch really in the way in the rural area?
Yeah, so just sort of based on the study that I was citing, it was really interesting because a lot of digital projects that are sort of brought from the urban areas to the rural areas, they are sort of conducting the projects, and they're finishing them with a positive sort of summary of the project, because they in their mind sort of a lot of participants took place, and they sort of see it as the feedback was good, so sort of the project was successful. But then the study goes a little bit deeper into, okay, so what was the social question, social problem that that this digital solution was aiming to solve, actually. And there it turns out that actually a lot of those projects do not end up solving those social problems on the local level. And sometimes the study also mentions that sometimes they even those problems even get worse. And I do see how this current how sort of difficult it is to come back to the same, to trying to come, how difficult it is to come back to trying to solve the same problem when you already try to sort of for instance, from a municipal level, on the local level, if a project sort of started, implemented some digital solutions, but everyone saw that it actually didn't solve the actual problem. It makes it very difficult to come back to the same problem again and ask everyone to trust that that again we'll try and let's do it together, sort of. A lot of people are investing their time, a lot of people are investing their ideas, and it's very discouraging to sort of see when you don't see the improvements.
Yeah,
so
of course.
This, just one more thing, this sort of lack of thinking big mindset. I don't mean it in sort of what Wallen initiator meant was that they approach is sort of we do not. So he was explaining that a lot of sort of digital startups in urban areas start with a purpose to scale up. So the main purpose of the project or of the startup is to scale. And he was explaining that their approach is rather, I have a problem here and I want to solve this problem. And whether my solution is going to then be useful to other villages or anywhere else is sort of a nice add-on. But the priority for me is I want to solve the problem in my village right now. And I found it really interesting in terms of sort of when we look at the direction that the Energiewende is going right now, which is sort of more decentralized, more a network of smaller local nodes, then this is really interesting, this approach, I think. Trying to really solve those little problems and then bring them together, really. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the message is, yeah, don't think about scaling before actually having solved something in an appropriate manner on the local level.
I mean, I think there are different problems, right? Like, I mean, of course, we also have to think of integrating the entire system, and there we have to think sort of from an integrated perspective. But I think from the rural point of view and from the sort of local perspective, that approach is very, very smart.
Okay, I guess we can continue there in the end. I see there's also questions from the attendees. With an eye to the time, I would actually proceed now with the third presentation. So please, we have your questions. We will take them as early as possible at the end, but now maybe we just continue with the presentation of Mannheim and then really go into the overall broader discussion. So thank you, Ursula, and see you in 10 minutes roughly. All right, then we continue, and our next speaker is Ms. Agnes Schönfelder from the city of Mannheim. Can we change the videos, Olga? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Agnes is by profession a civil engineer, and she has been working in public authorities at municipal and at state level for over 20 years now. She works currently as the director of the Climate Change Strategy Department for the city of Mannheim, and since 2019 also as the CEO of the Climate Action Agency Mannheim. And today she's gonna have us take us along to look at all the activities that Mannheim carries out. And the title of her presentation is The Wind of Change. Let's see what that is about: social innovation in energy transition and social transformation from a city perspective. And I'm very happy to have you with us today, Agnes, and I'm very curious about the plentitude of things that you guys do. So the floor is yours, and you just let me know when to switch the slides.
Okay, fine. So hello everybody. nice that you can follow now the wind of change, which is blowing through the city of Mannheim, city of transformation. And the wind of change is another sense in Germany, because the wind of change is a song which is combined with the East-West Germany. So they came together with this song, and so it is a symbolic thing, the song for change, for transformation. And I want to show you something about Mannheim, not all. So Niklas, 10 minutes is not enough to say all the ideas and action we are doing in Mannheim for transformation. But I want to make a point on social innovation in energy transition and social transformation from a city perspective. And then I need the next slide, please. So I think energy transition is one thing towards social transformation, and social transformation has to do with sustainability. So to be successful in that sense, we have to change the situation and the behavior of the citizens. So as you know already, SONNET is an EU Horizon project for social innovation in energy transition. So I think it's not only social innovation in changing the behavior, it's also social innovation in changing the situation. So let me give you some examples, insights, what I mean with that in the city of Mannheim. So next slide, please. So the wind of change began with a climate is beginning with a climate action plan and climate adaptation plan and for the city of Mannheim. And now we are on the way for a climate neutral city in 2050, as many cities in Europe and worldwide. And it has to do with our mission statement, Mannheim 2030. The mission statement is the translation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals into the strategic goals of the city of Mannheim. And one of the important strategic goals is to be climate resilient, climate friendly, and climate neutral till the year 2050. And the city of Mannheim has also given as one of the first 3 cities worldwide a voluntary local review report, how we localized the 17 SDGs into the city perspective and city policy. So we not exclaimed a climate urgency plan, a climate urgency case. We explained a climate urgency, not an emergency, an urgency plan, because we believe that it is urgent to transform the cities, and it is urgent to accelerate the development to the climate neutrality. Next slide. And so we are focusing within the urgency plan of the city of Mannheim on 4 focus themes, which has to do with energy in energy production, energy in energy saving and efficiency, energy in mobility, and so on. So for us, is energy transition not only a thing of energy saving and energy efficiency. It has to do with much more themes. So energy production is the first focus theme. Is a big point to reducing carbon dioxide emissions in the city, because we have at the moment a coal-fired power plant with a big heating district system, and we have to decarbonize it. So it's a big challenge for us, and we have a lot of mobility in the city, a lot of cars. We are a city of cars, so the car was invented in Mannheim, as you know. So to be climate neutral, we have to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions in the mobility. And also a fact is buildings and infrastructure. So we have to transform it also to be climate neutral in the buildings, and to build more sustainable and more with less energy consumption. And we need much more urban green areas as the carbon dioxide sink, and for our climate adaptation plan. So it all belongs together. And the wind of change means we have to change the situation, not only the people. First, you have to change the situation, conditions in your city, in the administration, and the circumstances to be successful. And that means, in this social point, changing the culture. So the culture, how do you think? How do you work in your city? Changing the rules. Prove everything you are doing in the city administration, make a climate impact proofing, and changing the resources, the personal resources and the financial resources. So with the urgency plan, the city gave 10 million more money into the climate fund to be more successful in climate neutrality. Next slide. So one big point is also citizen involvement. The city has a broad participation process during the mission statement process to involve all citizens, NGOs, external stakeholders, industry, and the administrations themselves. So we have since a few years a participatory budget where the citizen can decide about amount of money, what the administration has to do with the money. We have a citizen participation platform, so citizens can give their ideas into the platform, and all the measures, all the things what the urban planning is doing is coming into this platform, and people can give their ideas to these measures and so on. They can decide something about that. And the city believes that strong neighborhoods in the urban quarters is a big success factor for transformation. So that's why we were chosen as a SONNET city, because we have the focus on the socio-political theme, so with a strong urban governance aspect. So this Mannheim is well experienced in that, and so we have a mix of low carbon policy and sustainable transformation policy, and we are working cross-sectoral. So we need the wind of change not only with our citizens, we need it also in the administration to be successful. And we have 10 years experience of understanding our people, that they give us their social acceptance for achieving climate goals. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, it was already the next slide. Sorry. Yes, thanks. Yes, changing behavior. So we have some examples. We have a motivation and action program for our city administration staff. These are 8,000 people working for the municipality. So we have the Flurfunke program. It's something like information at the office floors, on the office floors, so office grapevine. And we are doing not only information, we are always giving information plus the possibility to be active, plus to be competitive, because people like competitions, they like to get a prize or some money for the administration for buying a new refrigerator, for example. And we are also work in urban quarters with our refurbishment programs, energetic refurbishment programs, and there we are also active with the people, also with the children. So this is an example in the left picture, a game on a street festival where the children could throw balls into the washing machines. And meanwhile, the parents get consulting on energy efficiency in the private households. And on the right picture, you see the Climate Heroes program. So we are active in the schools and kindergartens as well to explain the pupils not only about energy efficiency, but also mobility, climate-friendly consumption, and so on. Next slide. So we are using this knowledge. There comes the Climate Action Agency, on the floor, because we are using this experience from the 10 years from our projects also in SONNET, in the SONNET City Lab. We choose the urban quarter Neckarstadt West. It's there is a multicultural quarter with over 160 nations living within, 21,000 inhabitants. They have a strong social community, and they are funded in an urban development funding program nationally and also locally with our energetic renovation funding program. And we choose that because it's not an easy quarter, because people are living not in nice little houses, detached houses or single houses. They are living in housing blocks, and they are not so rich, and they are multicultural. So it is not an easy thing to change the behavior in direction energy transition or mobility transition. But they have a district management, successful district management, more social district management, and we can rely on it, and they work together with us in the City Lab. Next slide. So we started with the SONNET City Lab Mannheim, changing the behavior to collect ideas for social innovation, and we used a social innovation format. It's design thinking. And in our group, so we discussed via the design thinking method which ideas could fit to the urban quarter Neckarstadt West, which is really a little bit poor or deprived area in the city. So as you know, it is a user-oriented process, and we used our knowledge to give not only information, but to give the possibility to be active and to get some competition. And we try to close the gap between knowledge and doing, because the people, they have a lot of knowledge about what they have to do and what is good and what is not good. But to get the next, to come to the next step, to do something, it's another thing. And so we collected some ideas. On the next slide, please. Yes, these are our ideas for the Neckarstadt West social innovation ideas, what we can do. So what you can see is from our campaign Spare Your Car, where we had a little competition between households over 3 months. They should quit with their car during this time, and so that was a really nice and successful campaign, and 5 households quit with their car after the campaign. So we use this picture for the social innovation ideas. Would you like to experiment? We are looking for transformers. So idea is to have a sample, a role model construction site in an apartment building in Neckarstadt West. And we want to do an energy saving competition for households in the area, an electricity saving check plus an energy saving interactive container apartment, where we want to show all the appliances in the kitchen, for example, or in a sitting room, where you can save energy or to be more energy efficient. To launch energy shop for consultation, and to have an energy fitness park, to have an energy family doctor who comes if the household is sick of energy, high energy consumption, a children's energy camp, and an ideas bus for exchange between administration and citizens. And at least a competition Spare Your Car, only for this district, competition design parking spaces, and a 3D computer game Design Your District. So next slide. So people are really ready for change, we do think. It's an example from our Spare Your Car campaign. So it's our oldest participant in the campaign. She was over 80 years old, so she is really ready for changing. So the question is your city ready to transform? So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Agnes. I love especially this last slide, very colorful. And yeah, I haven't seen it. We didn't have a campaign like that here in Freiburg, I must say. Yeah, so thank you again a lot for this run through through this really long list of activities and ideas that you have at the city of Mannheim. And yeah, now I would actually like to welcome back Carsten and Ursula as well for our final discussion round. There we are, wonderful. And yeah, perfect. So I think a little bit picking up what we had in Ursula's presentation on this need to really see or to develop solutions really towards the needs of citizens. I mean, you have so many ideas developed at the city level. I think you seem to know quite well what you want and what your needs are. How much support do you actually get from the higher level? There was a bunch of decisions and procedures in the city, and now linking also to the presentation of Carsten, I think you have a quite holistic plan and roadmap for the energy transition, including mobility, including heating, and these points. Yeah, how much does this actually? How much is it supported by the national level or by the regional, the state level?
Okay. So it's more supported by a strong commitment with the mayor. I think I have to mention that because it is really it's a key success factor that the policy, the politicians is behind you if you want to reach something on the local level. Of course, the national level is something to change the situation. So you need this changing the situation because they do the regulation, they are making the rules, and they can support the local regulation if they are good in supporting energy efficiency and energy transition. So there was a thing in the last weeks. So they quit with the gigawatt limit. So they limited the increasing of the solar energy by 52 gigawatts. And now they quit with that. That is a good support for us. We waited for that for a long time because we have a campaign for solar energy in the city of Mannheim. It's make your roof sun-ripe. And so we were on the limit, on the top, and so we crossed our fingers that they quit with that. And that is what the national level can do to support as a local ambitions that we can do what we want to do. So, and we get a lot of support from the European level because we are really active. It was on my first slide. We are not only in the eClay network, we are in the Climate Alliance network, we are in the Covenant of Mayors network, and in the Eurocities network. So we get a great support from that side and also from the European policy. So I think that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was a good insight, and it is really impressive how active you guys are. So maybe linking to the rural perspective now, Ursula, what is there something you would say you can learn from Mannheim, from this really also playful approach with like these gaming activities that they have, or is there on the other side something where you would say, hey, there's something I learned from the rural areas that could also help in a city context like Mannheim? Any inspirations?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I really like the experimentation approach. It's really inspiring, not to sort of fear experimenting with new formats. I think it's very, that's something that keeps coming up quite often, that sort of local governments are very often assistant to experiment, because experimentation often means experimentation is sort of directly connected to failure often, and I think just Meinheim shows the way and leads the path to sort of showing that it really pays off to try out different things. And I'm really curious whether there were some failures that you had to sort of deal with, and I'm really curious how you dealt with them. But maybe we probably don't have the time for it. But I find it really incredibly inspiring that you try new formats and sort of don't fear new ideas. That's really cool.
The point of failures is, I think it's a good one, and we might just hear what Agnes has to say on that. But maybe we can tie in Carsten on one more question before we then take in the attendees' question, actually. But Carsten, maybe you can also think about this aspect of failures already. Working with cities all over Europe, my question to you would now be, do you have any insights what local governments in Germany can actually learn from other countries? And now, looking at the rural areas, but also at like front runners like Mannheim, I would say, is there something that you would say we can get inspiration from other countries in the EU?
Certainly. Before I answer the question, let me also link to what has been said already, and let me say that if you don't know that the car was invented in Mannheim, the bicycle was invented in Mannheim as well. And in that sense, we could see in German cities that pop-up bicycle lanes were installed by cities. So as a reaction to COVID-19, and maybe also here with the perspective of there is change, and sometimes even dramatic change, but it is also the opportunity now to experience a bike and experience an e-bike, for instance, and go for longer distances and so on. So this is really something which can be encouraged. Also as a reaction, for instance, in this debate, the city of Freiburg removed car parking spaces and let restaurants, which are now currently quite suffering, more space for people to sit outside, and in that sense support local economy again. So also here we have an opportunity despite of the crisis. Now coming back to the question, indeed, if you are open-minded, there's always lots to learn, and I'm sure Agnes can confirm that from the perspective of working within a European context, working with other cities. And if I just say now again from the thermal energy transition, which is very much needed, Germany can learn a lot from other countries. You can take the example of Islington in London, where the city is using the excess heat of the metro station for heating public and private apartments. You can look at Warsaw, where sewage plant and excess heat from the sewage plant is used also for heating buildings. You can look at Jelgava in Latvia, or Estonia, sorry, and Cascais in Portugal, where they're using the planning software called Thermos, which you can find on www.thermos-project.eu. Here it's a thermal planning software for free for municipalities, but also city utilities to use to plan their thermal district heating systems, making it more efficient and so on. And we can look at the city of Stockholm, who has established a kind of stock exchange for supermarkets, data center to feed in, to offer the excess heat to the district heating network they have, and here creating several linkages between sectors and reducing the fossil fuel footprint of a city. And having said that, the technology is there. Especially in the thermal energy sector with district heatings, heat pumps, and so on. The technology is there, but we need to connect it and we need to go into the doing. So into the digging of the trenches within the city, which is not so nice potentially, but it is a good investment. And here the social innovation is extremely important because it connects to the persons that may be a little bit afraid of experiencing the change, but there is fun, as we have seen from Mannheim, that can tackle this challenge.
Thank you. All right, then thank you for this first round of Q&A with us. And now let's see what our attendees actually want to do, discuss. And Olga, please share the questions with us.
Yes, I gathered quite some questions, but since we are actually running out of time, or basically already we are late, I will try to connect them somehow and wrap it up a little. So there are basically a couple of questions for Ursula. And Therese Gutmann from Austrian Institute of Technology is interested. What actually is the problem that these digital solutions you mentioned are attempting to solve? Is it about project coordination, about participation, stakeholder engagement? And what does this work better? Why does this work better in urban projects than in the rural projects? Perhaps.
So I cannot give one answer because there are a few answers, but I can answer that with based on one example. And so, for instance, if you look at sort of dealing with data for energy efficiency projects, and if you look into creating platforms that manage the data for energy efficiency projects on the in the rural areas, the problem that you're trying to save, one of the problems is that you first need to find out what is the need. So in the in the opinion of local actors, who should own the data, for instance? And you will never be able to answer that question yourself. And I would suggest it's really a mistake to try to come up with the answer to this question first. So I think it first needs to be identified, what do local actors think, who should own this data, for instance, and then based on that answer, follow up with sort of developing further solutions. The answer to that question is unfortunately often assumed, and with that come problems, I think. So there would just be one answer. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Ursula. I think it does. In case it doesn't, please, Therese, if you're still with us, write your follow-up questions in the chat. We'll try to address them. There's also one, like another question that we received via Twitter. The question is from Florian Hanke, and perhaps Agnes, you could answer this question. The question is citizen participation in the energy transition possible for all citizens, also for those with low income and little knowledge with respect to the energy transition? So I think the question is generally about inclusiveness within the energy transition process.
Okay. First, I have to say that we don't have so much to do with energy poverty in Mannheim. So it's we are lucky that we don't have. So the social net is such strong that we don't have so much problem with energy poverty. So all people can be part of our campaigns or actions for energy efficiency. We are going into the quarters and they can participate and they can, if they want, they can use it because it is a really easy access to our action and campaigns. We have the Climate Action Agency, so it's not the cities, it's more communication and more attractive for the people to join us. We have really good financial support, so supporting programs for energy refurbishment, as well, or scrapping bonus to change only your refrigerator, or we have programs for low-income households, and so that come from the Caritas Church Association, come people into the households to give information and to give them some money for energy efficiency measures and so on. So I think it's a good base to be open for all people to join us. And people, they don't want to have access to it, so they have 10 or 20% of the citizens, they don't want to do something for climate or for the environment or for energy. So if they don't want to do it, so we try to focus on the group with 60% between the 20% they do all, the 20% they do nothing, and the 60% between is our focus area to give them the possibility to be active and to be informed and to be competitive. And so I hope that meets the question.
Yeah, thank you, Agnes. Karsten or Ursula, perhaps one of you would also like to take on this topic of inclusiveness within the energy transition process. I think Mannheim is a really good example, but really a positive one. But I can imagine that there are, this can be a challenge for many cities, also in many rural areas. Perhaps one of you would like to continue. If not, I will continue the questions.
Yeah, maybe just a quick thought here, or complementarity. Indeed, I think the city is the platform to offer this opportunity, and Agnes, also very deliberately for those that are not the 20% of the right or left, or how you see the opinion poll, but to look at those that and activate those that are not yet already active. And in that sense, I believe the city can be and should be the platform to offer also investment cases and start with a small portion, so as many people as possible can participate to invest into infrastructure, public infrastructure, for instance. If I now again take the COVID case and read in the newspaper that for the city of Freiburg, which has about 200,020 inhabitants, is now facing, due to COVID, a budget hole in its public budget of 77 million euros. Of course, this is compensated in the case of Germany to some extent by national and state money now, but there might be also, in this sense, opportunities to think, okay, who can we involve in this financing of the energy transition? And maybe we should more address citizens and give them the opportunity to invest into refurbishment of public infrastructure. Let it be a school, or let it be a roof of a school where citizens are able to invest in renewable energy, for instance. So these are options which I think could be considered and should be considered, also targeting everyone with small portions of investment, making it possible.
Thank you, Karsten, for this answer. We have indeed a follow-up question from Theresa to Ursula. It's Theresa would like to know specifically, why do you think that these digital solutions work better in the urban energy projects rather than the rural projects? And I think the question also addresses the assumption, which I think is partially true, that actually cities have conditions for innovations and they have great potential to innovate. And how would you address it now in the context of rural areas? Do rural areas have this potential? And if so, what is this potential?
I think the potential is huge. Also, in sort of if you look at the direction of the energy transition, which is sort of moving towards more decentralized solutions, I think this first phase of the Energiewende showed that there's so much potential on the local level. And it really should be tapped. And I think if we provide enough support, it's just I see lots of opportunity there. And there's two factors that I see sort of coming back as main barriers that are often mentioned as main barriers, and there are the lack of clarity when it comes to the role the local actors should play when it comes to the systematic smart energy planning. So what is the local role when it comes to not only sort of projects related to generation, but thinking about the entire system? That's one thing. And then the second thing is the role of local actors in experimentation, and that's something that I was really interested to learn from Mannheim because they managed to find an amazing way. As I mentioned before, I think experimentation is necessary at the moment, but on the local level, it's very hard to do that for many reasons. But it's very, very risky to experiment. So what I see as a solution to that problem is supporting local governments in giving them space to experiment more. And there I have some idea. Maybe for the next webinar we can talk about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you, Ursula. Yeah, back to Niklas.
Yeah, I think we really have to wrap up now. Maybe to finish off, each of you can say one last sentence. What do you think is needed now for advancing the energy transition in cities? And with that, you can also then say goodbye already, because we need to come to an end. And whoever has already a clear idea, just go for it.
So I can start, yeah, because I gave you already my statement at the beginning, so I would like to repeat it. So I think for a real social transformation, you need the wind of change blowing on all floors, not only to change the citizens and the behavior of the citizens, but also change the situations, the conditions, and your own administration.
Thank you. Then Ursula, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm just really inspired by Mannheim, and I think learn from good practices and look how they deal with involving more local actors in the design of the future of the energy transition on the local level, looking from my perspective. Just some amazing examples there already that I feel very inspired by. So I think
Okay, that's great to hear. If our speakers are inspired by the webinar, that's also a very good outcome. And then Carsten, you have the final word, so to say.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, we need to close the gap from knowing to doing, as we heard from Agnes here. I fully support that. We have the technologies, they are there. to make the decarbonization of our entire energy system in an affordable manner possible. So this is happening. This is there. So it's an organizational question. It's a political and organizational questions to go this way towards net zero and climate neutrality, and therefore social innovation is the key we should all look into now, because we are very good in planning, but let's do it and be socially more innovative.
Thank you very much. I think that was a great final word, fitting very nicely also this whole webinar series and the SONNET project. And yeah, we hope everyone enjoyed this webinar and got some inspiration and new insights from it. I definitely did so, and I'm very happy we had all three of you with us. And yeah, from my side, I want to say thank you. And if you want to stay in touch, check out our Twitter account. You can send us an email as well, or find more information about the project on our website. And you can also sign up on our website to receive email updates from the SONNET project, for example, on the next webinar, because we're planning some more. With this, yeah, I hope we didn't strain your time capacities too much, and goodbye and see you soon.
Goodbye. See you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.